Cartethyia is a problem, and in this video I will explain why. Now in no way is this video meant to doom post the game or anything like that, because 2.4 is set to be a great update. However, I just do want to point out a few things that I'm actually worried for about Cartethyia and her synergies, and basically how she's going to fit into the game. As you can see, we are in Avenolium right now. We are outside Fleur-de-Lis's door, basically telling her that she's a problem. So if you haven't heard, the stats for her signature weapon were revealed, and it is shown that the second stat is HP percentage. Now you may be wondering, well, how does that mean that she's a problem? When a signature weapon has a HP main stat on it, it means that the character is HP scaled. Now again, you may think, well, that's not that bad. I mean, it's the first HP unit in the game, right? In that you'd be correct, and that's the point. Wuthering Waves has been purely based on attack, crit, and maybe a bit of defense as well, in some very rare niche cases. So since Cartethyia is the first HP scaled unit, let me ask you a question. Do you think there are any synergies in the game currently for HP units? Let's have a look at the roster that I have. So I have all of the Resonators apart from a few 5-stars like Zanny, Grant, and Rochia, and Jian. The rest I have. Now of course, her best in slot teammate is going to be Chikona. However, as you can see from her outro skill is Aero Erosion Damage Amplification. And of course, she's an Aero Erosion Implanter as well. Now, if you look for, your common sub DPSs that you may want to use, for example, I know a lot of people use Sanhua just for the quick rotations. Basic attack damage. Now, if you look for, say, Verena, a very good universal support. Her inherent skill becomes pretty much useless because guess what? Attack increased by 20% for 20 seconds. Now, of course, that means that this skill is just useless. It's absolutely useless. However, I just do want to point out that her outro skill is not, because there is a difference between attack, like attack buffs, and damage buffs. Damage applies for any damage done, while attack just boosts an attack stat. And since Cartethyia does not scale off of attack, that becomes useless, but that's okay. So Verena does become diminished, but is not completely useless. Now, it's not just synergies that are affected here. On your sub DPS, what set do you have? Moonlit Clouds, Empyrean Anthem, maybe even a bit of Tide Breaking, I suppose. Stuff like that, right? Maybe even Rejuvenating Glow. Now look at the 5-piece set, and look at what it is. Increases the attack of all party members by 15%. Moonlit Clouds. Upon using outro skill, increases the attack of the next Resonator. Empyrean Anthem. Increase the Resonator's coordinated attack damage upon a critical hit of a coordinated attack. Increase the active Resonator's attack by 20%. So these really good general sub DPS sets become useless. All because they give attack buffs and not damage buffs. Which poses a very big question. Who do you run with Cartethyia if you don't have Chikona? Of course, we have Aero Rover, for example. The dude is definitely going to be part of her team in one way or another. However, he himself is not a sub DPS. Or at least that's not his best role, in my opinion. I do have his Spectro set on right now, even though I'm in Aero mode. Let me just go to my loadouts real quick. My Aero Rover is Rejuvenating Glow, because the dude heals. And of course, there would be no point in putting Moonlit Clouds on, because if I'm using him as a sub DPS, then the attack buff is useless. Now, I do want to say this video is by no means basically saying that the game is done because there's no synergies. Rover can be used as a healer in a third slot, and you can actually use a sub DPS that not many people look to nowadays. As we go down here, we get to the likes of Yuhu, Yuanwu, Taochi, Chixia. I was looking at outro skills recently, and this guy came to my attention. If we just go to his outro skill, the incoming Resonator has their aero damage amplified by 23% for 14 seconds. Now this is big. If you don't have Chikona, this is your next best option for a sub DPS, simply because aero damage is not affected by attack. It's not purely scaled off attack, it can be scaled off of HP as well, because Cartethyia is HP scaled. Now, of course, building this guy as a sub DPS is incredibly silly, because At the end of the day, you don't want to be playing as him. You want to be playing as Cartethyia most of the time. So I would really go Cadenza. Max that out. Maybe even try and R5 it. And do something incredibly stupid, which is do a 2-piece Moonlit Clouds and a 3-piece Empyrean Anthem, and then have 3 costs, all with main set energy regen, then 2 1 costs with energy regen on them as well. Now, yes, this does sound absolutely manic. However, that's the whole point of this video, to really say that there are not that many synergies out there. Of course, this is all based on the information that we have right now. Of course, if it does turns out that she has a bit of, like, basic attack scaling, you can use Sanhua. So if it does turn out that she somehow scales a bit off of Res Lib or Res Skill, you can of course use the respective characters on that. Like, even if they scale off a Res Skill, then Jeje would be a good idea just for that Res Skill amp. Also, I do want to say, if you are hard stuck for sub DPS options, and you don't want to be using Sanhua, let's say she's in another team, I believe you can get away with using, like, Cartethyia, Phoebe, and Aero Rover. Now, using Aero Rover, you can probably get away with doing Windward Pilgrimage, which is the new set. However, of course, because Aero Rover does not implant stacks of their own, the Gus of Welkin set will not work on them. That's where Phoebe comes in. She can implant sort of, she can implant Spectral Frazzle, Rover converts it into Aero Erosion, and then you can play Cartethyia like that. But I did just want to make this video to sort of say that, hey, we don't really have that many synergies in the game. And you know what would have been a great thing to do? Is to maybe release a 4-star that had good synergies with her. For example, have a 4-star that on their outro skill buffs HP percentage or like max HP. So it technically increases her attack. Or just have a 4-star that's actually a nice sub DPS like Sanhua that just buffs aero damage or something along those lines, because I think we can all agree that we don't want to be using Alto. Of course, I'm not complaining personally because I have Chikona, of course, but I know that some people may not be in my situation because I do have an S2 Chikona, so I should be fine with anything that comes my way, really. But I know people have to be a lot more strict with their pulling plans. Now, of course, we don't know everything, so of course this video may prove to be absolutely useless when she comes out, but this is all based on the fact that she has to be HP scaled if her weapon has so much HP percentage on it. So if you guys are pulling her, please let me know what team you're going to use with her, and let me know if I did miss anything, because I'm sure you guys have looked at betas. I'm personally not going to cover any leaks, but of course, if you are going to talk about leaks in the comments, then please do just say, hey, these are leaks, because I know some people don't want to be spoiled. But yes, thank you all so much for coming to this little TED Talk rant video, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.